Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jay Beershank. We're here at Cottesloe Beach in Perth, Western Australia. It's my first time shooting a book review in a while. It's funny to be in front of the camera, but here we are. We got some surfers over there, we got the ocean, it's beautiful. It's a nice day. We're in the winter actually, so it's a cold day, but it's not that cold. It's like 65 Fahrenheit. What would that be in Celsius? I'm gonna take a rounded guess. I'm gonna say 17, so it's not that cold. Anyway, today we're gonna review a book I'm really excited about. It's funny to do these reviews sometimes because I haven't talked to anybody all day long, and now I'm here like talking to the camera in an animated way. It's so funny. But anyway, so we're gonna review a book probably a lot of people have heard of. Maybe they haven't heard of the book, but they definitely heard of the man. The man's pretty famous. I've heard of the man for a really long time, and I've actually studied him a bit and I followed him a bit, but I've never been a prescribed student, as you might say. But I lined myself out with about 4 or 5 courses and certifications that I want to get this year, or as actually last year, but just for the next couple of years. And his program was one of those certifications I'd like to get just because of many things, but it was reinforced after I read the book. And that person in that book is the Wim Hof Method by the man himself, Wim Hof. So you've probably heard of Wim Hof, but if you haven't, he's really, really famous because he has been enduring extreme cold, like going up Mount Everest barefoot and going in these ice baths for minutes and hours on end. And what people were starting to say about him was that he had control over his autonomic nervous system, which is a really big deal. So he became really famous for that. And he's probably been in the spotlight now, I'd say for at least 15 years, maybe only 10. But I was really surprised this book was only written 5 years ago. So it's a pretty recent book, which I thought was really cool because it kind of, I feel like, at least for me it was cool because I felt like it gave a more contemporary point of view from him rather than the stuff that I felt like I had learned about 10 years ago. So it was very cool. And first and foremost, what I really want to get down to the root of and down to the heart of everything is thing that was so beautiful about this book, and it was a beautiful book, sorry, I might add, the most beautiful thing about this book was the pure simplicity of basically putting health and prosperity and strength in the hands of the people, which is where it belongs, which is where it lives anyway. But I feel like now with so many things, basically distractions, I'll say distractions even though it's cliche, but with so many things to look at, like social media or books or information, the age of information, we can find out so many things and we can see so many things on Instagram. It's so difficult for us to realize and remember that the most basic things are the things that are going to help us heal, be happy, and be strong. And as a holistic life coach, which I was learning through the Czech Institute, which I'll continue to do, that also was really reinforced there, which I just love because with all this noise, you know, it's so simple and it's so beautiful to remember that like his method is breathing, cold exposure, and mindset. Those things are so simple. For example, like with the cold exposure, he's saying just take cold showers. With the breathing, you know, he says just breathe, motherfucker. That's what he says in the book. And it's like, it's such a what's the right way to say it? It's just such a in your face and so simple way to think about it. It's like you don't need to have the perfect breath work routine like you see on Instagram, or you don't need to have the perfect ability to do a stomach roll vacuum to be able to have a breathing practice that benefits you. You just need to breathe and breathe consciously. Obviously you're breathing already, but you know what I mean? You just need to take some time out of your day to take those conscious deep breaths. Teach yourself how to breathe into the belly. Don't teach yourself necessarily how to do a full belly roll or whatever. Not that those things are bad, but those things aren't the practices that are necessary for us to develop, for us to be able to begin having the benefit of conscious breath into our life. And then mindset, it's just like, come on, obviously, not obviously, it's not obvious to everybody, but you know, what we think becomes what we experience, really. Like we're projecting this perspective out onto the world and it's going to be reciprocated, you know? This is, yeah, that's a whole nother metaphysical idea, but I think that those metaphysical ideas can be broken down into the simplest way, where it's just like what you believe is what you see. That makes a lot of sense, no? And also, you know, what we expect is what we attract. That also makes a lot of sense, right? It's not like law of attraction or manifestation or anything like that. It's just like, it's nearly, I would say, common sense, but obviously not common sense for everybody, and you might not agree with me, and that's okay. But I feel like if you're willing to adopt that mindset, then the potential benefits that may come to you are going to be advantageous and appreciated by you, although you could adopt other mindsets that may have other benefits, and you can try that and let me know how it goes. But now we're going to talk about the Wim Hof Method. So anyway, another part of the book that was cool, that is aside from his method, is you get to learn a bit more about the man himself. I didn't really know that much about his life and how he grew up, and definitely he reminded me. I grew up primarily on a small island, well, not that small, but it's called Whidbey Island, and it's in the United States, and it's off of Seattle, maybe an hour and a half from Seattle. And it's a lot of old hippies there. It's like an artist kind of retirement community, that's what I would call it, or at least that was the scene I was in. You know, ecstatic dance and yoga and this kind of just old people that are just grounded into who they are, and they don't give a fuck, and they're living from life, and they don't have a certain dogma they have to follow or a certain type of way they have to be. They're just themselves, but themselves are really great people because they've refined their character over their whole entire life, or they've awoken to their character, or they've surrendered to their character over a whole entire lifespan. So his writing style and his speaking, the way he spoke, to me, reminded me a lot of these older hippies that I grew up with. And those people were monumental in my life because, you know, they got me into doing yoga early, they got me into doing ecstatic dance early, they got me into appreciating life early, being kind, you know, living from the heart, these sorts of things, which are, as you get older, at least as I've gotten older, those are the things that you lose touch with. Those are the things that are the most simple, like we said in the beginning, the most simple, but those are the things you most easily lose touch with when we live in this, I don't want to say another cliche thing, but the chaotic world. You know, there's so much going on, and it's so easy to forget about these, you know, super simple practices that create a good life for you and everybody else around you. So anyway, he talks a lot about how he grew up, and he's from the Netherlands, and he had like from 18 to 26, he lived in this squatting house where it's just a bunch of people that weren't paying rent to live in these houses, and they had like basically it was like a commune with a bunch of people doing what they wanted. He talks about doing naked yoga in the sun all the time, and people not like, you know, thinking even second thing about it because it's just they're living free. And you know, that reminds me a lot of my experience too. You know, the times when I have felt, well, not even the times I've felt, I was gonna say times I've felt the best, but that's not the point. But you know, on my island, like some of the greatest memories I have as a kid were, you know, going to the beach in the sun like we are now, getting naked, going in the ocean, doing my cold immersion, doing my qigong. And this was before I ever heard about Wim Hof. It was just about, that's nice to do. It makes me feel good. You know, I love to do my qigong. I love to go in the ocean. Why? Because it just lights you up. It's those things that are common sense, but they're not common sense until you experience them, I guess. And that goes to the same what we were talking about earlier with the mindset. But and also, so I guess I'm getting super abstract about it. So the method is talked about and utilized as a way to bring holistic functional health to people that are suffering from chronic disease, primarily from inflammation. When you breathe and when you have the mindset that we're talking about, you basically can tap into this anatomic nervous system. This is not something that's new. This is talked about in a lot of different traditions, mystic traditions and religious traditions. And he talks about a ritual in Tibet, in Tibetan Buddhism, where they have to go out in the cold. They wrap a wet blanket around them, and then they have to, over the night, sit there in the cold, meditate, and dry the blanket. Because what they're doing is they're cultivating that inner life force, or what he calls, you know, he has all the science to prove it now, which is really great, because that's Wim Hof's, I think, biggest gift to humanity, is that he's brought a lot of these mystic traditions forth into the public with such an outspoken character that he is. And then also he's gotten all these scientists to take tests on him to verify what he's doing. So this inner life force, or this chi, you know, you could also call it BAT, which is brown something fat cells or something like that. And I'd never heard of that before, and I don't know a lot about the brown fat cells, but this is a fat cell that basically can generate heat. And he's saying when he goes into these deep breathing and when he's in this particular mindset, then he can, you know, generate heat from this brown fat. I forgot exactly what that's called, but it was brown fat, and there was an abbreviation, I think it's BAT. But Wim Hof has done countless amounts of studies and tests with highly certified professionals in different fields to show that he is doing something to his biology and to the brain chemistry that is real and that is happening. through only breath and intention. And there was also a point where we talked about in the book where at one point he didn't do the breath work because they didn't want to think, because people who were testing him were curious if he could do it without the breath work, and he did it with purely intention. So he's raising the heat of his body through intention. And the raising of the heat is one thing, but then the tapping into the autonomic nervous system is another thing, because when you're in a hypothermic state like this, or going through the Himalayas barefoot, it's more than just having to raise your body temperature a few degrees. There is much more going on that is allowing someone to do a feat like that. That is a feat of extraordinary accomplishment, right? I don't know if accomplishment is the word, but it's very difficult. So to just downplay it and just say, oh, he's just raising his body temperature, I think would be a silly. But yeah, sorry if I'm doing it a little bit vaguely. If I'm doing a vague review, I guess I'm kind of assuming that people know who Wim Hof is. But if you don't know who he is, I would definitely recommend reading the book. That would be a great place to start. Yeah, and there was also a lot of talk about, in the end of it, I love in the ends of books when the writers feel like they've solidified their point. So then they just take it one step further and they just let the more speculative, esoteric aspects of their conclusions unfold into the reader's mind. And we talk a lot about, in the end, he talks about, so to preface this, putting your cells under stress has been shown to be a good thing for your cells, right? Like, different kinds of stress can be good, different kinds of stress can be bad, of course. But for example, cold, he talks a lot about the science of how cold is good for the cells because it puts them under a certain type of stress that forces them to adapt, right? And so also he talks about, and then so this gets into telomeres and like lifespan and things like that, and then inflammation also too. So those few things are pretty key things of how you could improve your health dramatically, but I'm not going to get too much into that because it's not my field and it's not my place to say that right now, because I want to talk about in the end of the book he starts talking about basically locked inside of our genes are trauma from our ancestors, ancestral trauma that are locked inside of our genes that are having certain gene expressions that can be not ones that we want. They're manifesting as disease or manifesting as different types of dis-ease in our ego or our soul or whatever that might be. And I think it's funny because I think in a lot of ways the woke movement, which I'm saying so many cliche things, I'm sorry, but the woke movement, or maybe the liberal agenda that seems to be prevailing in a lot of the West, would have to kind of validate this, because a lot they're talking about ancestral trauma and they're talking about like the colonizer mindset and these types of things. So if you believe those sorts of things, then you also have to then take one step further to believe that there is some kind of genetic trauma locked inside your DNA. And basically he talks about how when we're putting ourselves under certain types of stress and we're decreasing the inflammation and we're able to give ourselves like this, we're able to power them up basically and give them less to have to worry about in the sense of disease, then they're able to unlock these certain, he talks about it much better in the book, but I'm kind of giving it more of an esoteric spin. But basically being able to lock these ancestral traumatic blocks in our DNA. And we can think about this in a logical way. We think about when an animal has a traumatic experience. I don't know if you've seen this, but a dog or a deer, when a deer almost gets hit by a car, maybe you've never seen that. But anyway, the animals, they shake it off, They shake the trauma out of their nervous system. Us humans, when we go through traumatic experiences, we often don't shake it out of our nervous system because we don't even know that that's a thing. So those traumatic experiences get locked somewhere in us. We can say in our DNA, you can say in whatever you want, but it all breaks down to be basically in our cells anyway. So whatever you're gonna say is gonna be a cell, or whatever you want to call it. You can call it a vibration, or you can call it an atom, gets locked in our atoms, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so since we're not shaking this trauma out, it's accumulating. As it accumulates more and more and more, it's passed down. So the trauma that you have accumulated from your ancestors and in your own life is going to get passed down into your children through your DNA, unless you take those proper precautions to heal and unblock those things. So we talk about, everybody wants to talk about shadow work and they want to talk about healing your trauma and these types of things. Well, this is a perfect way to do that. And it's a way to do it that's your own way, through yourself, healing with your own medicine. And he talks about a lot getting high off your own supply. I did a lot of the breath work before I did this video because I was feeling depressed because I just well, not depressed, sorry, but I felt melancholy because I was walking around all day by myself. I'm a lonely guy sometimes. I work a lot and I walk around a lot,
you know, it's beautiful though. I can't complain. But anyway, I was feeling melancholy, so I did a bunch of the breath work. I'm standing here in the grass, bare feet, in a beautiful place, and I'm charged up, as you can see by how I'm talking. So, forgot the point. Anyway, so I think you know what I'm trying to say. Definitely recommend the book. It's a really simple read. He speaks very clearly and very simply. He's not a scientist. He's not some crazy mathematician guy. He's not some crazy guy that's giving you this crazy arcane esoteric language. He's just super straightforward, super to the point, and it's fun to read. It's really informational, and I would definitely check it out, because if you've ever suffered from any kind of mental, physical, or spiritual dis-ease in your life, then these simple tools represented in his method would absolutely help you, no matter what, because it's not just his method, it's just ancient wisdom that's being passed down forever. Breathe, healthy stress, like cold exposure or exercise or altitude or breath retention, whatever the stress may be. So breath work, cold exposure, and mindset. If you don't think that mindset is a beneficial thing to your health, well, that's crazy, because at least you can think about it a beneficial thing to your mental health. Anyway, sorry if I talk too fast. I was excited and I was just letting it go, but that's gonna do my review here. Thank you very much, Wim Hof. I appreciate you and the man that you are. It made me really want to go on one of his trips. I started looking up, he does trips. I'm definitely gonna go on one of his trips with him, just because it would be so beautiful to only after a week's time see a group of people achieve something that they would have thought was impossible before that week. Would not only be reassuring and validating for me, but it would be a beautiful experience to have with other people. And those trips I think are like $5,000, so definitely worth it. So thank you, Wim. Appreciate you very much, and I appreciate all you guys for watching. Thank you very much. I love you very much. Peace out from Perth, Australia. Hope everyone takes it easy, enjoys their life, does the best that they can, because that's all we can do. Stay in the light, stay in the love. Peace.